Hey fellow gliders, today I'm going to be building a micro app that's going to be a demonstration as to how you can create an approval system to showcase your contact information. This request comes from a fellow Glide user who was interested in allowing a user to release their contact information to other users in the app, but only upon approval. So here's how you can build something like this for yourself. I'm going to come over here and create a new app, and let's call this approval or approve user. And I'll just choose glide tables for now. Normally when I build apps, I always build them with a Google Sheet, but for our micro apps here, this is sufficient. All right, so we have a list of users, and let's give this user number 1 and user number 2 and user number 3. I don't know what happened to user number 1. All right, user number 1. Let's remove row owners for now. And let's give them some fake email addresses. This is user2@email.com. And this will be user3@email.com. And let's give some fake images. This is man. Sure. And woman. Great. All right, and so what we want is maybe to release some contact information only when it's been requested and only has been approved by the person that it was requested from. So maybe we also want a phone number in here. So we have phone number column, basic column, phone number, done. All right, so we have here like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Let's go backwards. 0, and then let's do starting from 5, 1 through 4. Cool. All right, so then the way this will work is, let's say I am user 1 and I want to contact user 2 and see their contact information, which is going to be hidden until it's released. User 2 will see a request and then approve it, and then once it's been approved, user 1 will be able to see user 2's credentials. All right, so instead of this things column, let's call this requests. And we'll need some information here. We're going to need to know the person making the request. So this is the requester. And then we'll need requestee. I'm not sure if there's a better name for that. And then basically maybe when it was requested. So requested on, and then whether or not it was requested, yes or no. We could either just have a slide, like a toggle that says yes or no, or it could be a button that says yes or no, or it could be a choice component that says yes or no. We could do a variety of things. I'm thinking maybe just a button that says when they push a button, then it says requested. So well, here we'll have a status. Well, we'll say approved. So approved, true or false. So this will be a Boolean. All right, so then we can have a status. All right, so if approved is false, then we'll say not approved or declined. We'll say that. If approved is true, then we'll say approved. Okay, then if it's the requester making it, so if requester is the signed in user, then we'll say pending approval. Otherwise, if the requestee is the signed in user, then we'll say new request. Done. All right, so we see there's nothing in here yet because we haven't made any requests yet. All right, so the last thing we'll need here is another if then else that's going to result in the email address of the requestee when it has been approved. So that way we can make some relations back from the user sheet to the requestee. All right, so this will be a if then else, and we're going to say if the requester is not the signed in user, then nothing. So that way we're only going to target our requests. Okay, then we'll say if approved is true, then we'll do the requestee email, otherwise nothing. All right, so if approved becomes true, then let's say this is one email to email, right? So if approved is true, then this should display the requestee number 2. So if approved is true, then requestee. Maybe it's not doing that because it's not an actual email address like it's supposed to be. Yeah, email. Oh, because we're not the signed in user. That's why. Okay. So let's say user1@email.com. Okay. All right, so if I make a request and I'm requesting for user2@email.com, okay, we see that it's been declined because I didn't approve it, but then when I approve it, then we should see the requestee, user2@email.com here. So if requester isn't the signed in user, then nothing. Oh, I need to be user 1. There we go. So now it shows up, right? But if I'm not the user, if I'm not the requester, then we have nothing. So you see that we're only targeting our requests and only requests that have been approved. All right, so we're going to say if approved, then requestee. Which is not actually a word, apparently. Requested. Whatever, it's fine. Done. All right, so that should be the only columns that we need here. And then lastly, we just need a relation from the user's email address here to the actual if approved request. So in the users column here, I'm going to say approved request. And then we're going to do a relation. So actually relation to approved request. We're going to relate the email address of the user to the requests if approved, then requestee. Done. All right, so we can see that because user 1 has requested user 2's information and user 2 approved it, then the relation showed up. Okay, if user 2 did not approve it, then there is no relation. If user 2 did approve it, again it shows up, but if I'm not user 1, then we see it doesn't show up. All right, so now we have this relation as basically a switch between whether or not they should show the information or not show the information. All right, so now all we have to do is build out the interface. So I'm imagining we're going to have a list of users, right? So we have a list of users, and we should not show users that, why does that say user 1 twice? It doesn't make any sense. Let's refresh this. So we shouldn't show ourselves because we shouldn't be able to request information from ourselves. That'd be kind of silly. So we're going to filter this list. So options, or edit list, options, filter, where email is not the signed in user. All right. So now let's say here's user 2 and user 3. Again, we don't want to see their contact information, so we're going to hide their email. Here's user 2. And we want to see contact information for user 2, right? So let's show a title component here of the avatar name, but no email quite yet. All right, and then some contact information. So we'll show an email and then we'll show a phone, like so. This could also be a basic table. You could do, you can show whatever kind of component you want. Okay, now, but we only want to show these components when that relation is not empty. So we're going to set visibility conditions on each of these components. So I'm going to show options, visibility, when this rel approved request is not empty. And same thing for the phone number. When rel approved request is not empty. So right now we see that it is not empty because I have it approved. But if I were to delete this request, then we should see that that contact information is no longer there. So now we'll need to create an interface here to where we can request this user's information. So I'm going to create a simple button here. This could be a form, or it could just be a simple one button press like this. We could say request contact information. Okay, and we're going to do a custom action here. So what we're going to do is we're going to, play a sound. We will show notification. And we'll say information requested. And then we're going to add a row to the requests. So we're going to add a row to requests where the requester, that's us, that's our user's current email address. The requestee is going to be the email address of the current screen that we're in. Requested on is going to be the date and time. All right, so we're going to say request. Save. All right, now we should only request it once. So after we've requested the information, then maybe we could then maybe it'll hide itself, or maybe we can show it a relation to the request. So if we need a relation to the request, regardless of whether it was approved or not, then we need to create another if then else over here that just says, if it is my request, then requestee. So I'm going to duplicate this column. I'm going to call this if my request, then requestee, which is going to be the exact same thing, just without this second condition, because we don't care if it's approved or not. We just care to see whether or not someone has already made a request. And so if the requester is not the signed in user, then blank. Okay, else, then we'll show the requestee. Done. And now we can do another relation. We're going to call this relation to just request. So relation to, from the email to the requests, if my request, requestee. Done. All right, so we'll see that when I make this request, we see information requested, and now there should be a relation here, and there is. Okay, but this this relation is only going to be there for this particular user. All right, if I sign in as user 3, we see that since they did not make a request yet, then it's not there. All right, so basically we want to hide this button if there's already been a request made, right? So this button will only show up when rel request is empty. All right, and so then maybe we want to be able to edit our request, maybe or delete our request if we changed our mind, right? So we can clone our button, and we'll call this. We do the stat. No, we can't do the status yet. Or maybe we can. We can maybe pull in the status, right? Because we have the rel request already. So let's do a lookup of the status from the request, pending approval, right? So this button, we can show the status And this button we only want to show when rel request is not empty. So we see it's pending approval. This button should only show up if we are the requestee, which it will. Okay, yeah, this will only show up if we made the request. And then this button should take us to our request. So our action will be a show edit screen of the rel request. So when I click on pending approval, this is our request here. All right, so we can trash all these things. We can make a basic table just to show some basic information. So we can see status pending approval, and we could say approved or requested on. Right? And then we can give the option to like delete. So they can delete the item if they want to. So if I delete the request, now I have to re-request contact information. All right, now let's say I am user 2 and I want to go ahead and approve the information, right? I should see, well, first off, I guess this button should not appear if you are the signed in user. So an email is not signed in user. Right. So this user should see a list of contact requests, right? And I guess what we could do is either it'd be kind of fun if we did like a swipe. You could swipe yes, allow, or no, not. Or we could just do an inline list of requests. I'll show you both routes. So the easy route could be an inline list of requests, right? Where we'll filter where the requestee is the signed in user, right? So these are all of my new requests. And I should see who's making the request. Now, I probably don't want to show the email address. I probably want to see like the name and the photo, right? So I need to do a relation back to the requester. So back in my requests sheet, I'll say rel requester. And I'll do a relation where the requester's email address matches the values in user's email. Done. And then I'll bring in the requester photo. So look up photo, requester photo. And then I'll bring in the requester name. So that'd be a lookup of the rel requester name. Done. And that's what I'll display in this inline list here, right? So the title will be the name. Details could be the status, I guess. And then image could be the photo. Right? Or maybe we can even show like requested on. And we could sort them. We can do all kind of fun things. We can do cards. So where the header is the status. We could do avatar is the photo, text is the name, and caption is the requested on. Something like that. Leave these blank. I kind of like that. And so when they click on new request, then here we should have the ability for them to approve the user or not, right? So on this screen, we'll have a title component where we'll show the requester name and the image. We could say requested on, which is already there. You know, we could even have you could insert some text that says like so-and-so would like to contact with you, right? And then we can have a button. Now, probably like a button bar is sufficient, where we have approve or decline. And when they approve it, we'll have them go back a screen and mark it as true. And if you decline it, it marks it as false and goes back a screen. So on the left action, we will create a new action here where we'll go back a screen and then set column in this row where approved is true. So this is approve, save. And on decline, we'll create a new action where again we'll go back a screen and we'll set column where approved is false. This is decline, save. All right, now decline could also maybe like delete the row, but then here, so if I decline this, right, then I see that this request has been declined, and maybe this request should only show like if it's pending, right? So we're going to filter request is signed in user and where status includes the word new. All right, so to user 2, I have accepted, or sorry, I've declined that, and so back on user 1 screen, we see that it's been declined. So then I can delete the item and maybe re-request or have some other sort of logic as well. So then user 3, I can request contact information for user 3. It's pending approval. And then for user 3, they see I have a new request and they can approve. Right? And then back if I am viewing it, I see that it's been approved. And then here's the contact information, right? So maybe this button should only appear when row request is not empty and where the status doesn't include approved. Right? So then that way for user 2, I still see it. But for user 3, I don't. But I actually do see their contact information. All right, so this is just one way where you can have users approving other users to see their contact information. You could also paywall this information as well. Like you have to pay, X amount of dollars or subscribe to your app X amount of dollars every year in order to see contact information. This is all conditional based on logic that you have in your data tables in Glide. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave me a comment below. And as always, thanks for watching.